Hey, this is me building and strategizing a $2 million a year business in public. I'm currently at 128K a month in profit. I want to hit 167K a month. So here's how we do things. We start off with a QA, then we do some growth stats, aka we look at my growth over the course of the last 24 hours. Hopefully it's like this. Then at the end, we'll cover some live strategy, things that I'm currently doing in my business today that you guys can just copy and paste into yours to see some sort of result. So if I scroll all the way down here, it's just my daily update little notepad. Good God, have I written a lot. We'll start with the QA. So I pull comments from my daily updates channel, which is right over here. I'm zooming in. We're getting a lot more than we were just a couple weeks ago, which is awesome. So I'm going to start with Nadia's down at the bottom and probably do 2 or 3 more just as I work my way up. And then any that I don't respond to today, I'll respond to tomorrow and in future videos. So if you have a question that you'd like me to answer that you don't think that I've answered already, some sort of unique question ideally, otherwise I'm just going to point you to a resource, then drop it down here. So first question's from Nadia -AI Insiders. That's kind of cool. You're running a channel? Oh, nice. Okay, so we got almost 1,300 subs. Fantastic. This is a really cool, it's a really cool cover photo. How do you keep track of everything on your own? With client projects, students, and promises to manage, doesn't it get overwhelming? It's impressive how much you've accomplished as a one-person business. Yeah, I appreciate that. So does it get overwhelming? Yeah, absolutely. You know, I have overwhelming days like anybody else. I think that anybody that is not realistic about that, like, I think about all of the big business titans that I've looked up to for many years, and they probably have extraordinarily overwhelming days on like a daily basis. I just don't see it. They hide it well, or I don't know. Their motivations are aligned with making it seem as if they are not overwhelmed. But you know, I feel pretty overwhelmed every now and then. So yeah, it does get overwhelming, and it's certainly not like the most ideal, I guess, emotional state to be operating in 24/7. But I also want you to consider it like this: like, it's not all or nothing, right? Like, the subjective feeling of overwhelmed exists on this gradient between like not stimulated at all and then overstimulated. In reality, there's a nice like kind of middle spot where you're optimally stimulated. And that's really where I think that you should aim to be most of the time. This is a concept passed on by the ancient Greeks, basically called eustress. It kind of looks like this. So if this right here is your stress meter, this is your, I don't know, performance meter. Okay. And then if this is just our super sexy, totally perfect graph. I am loving the graphs. Basically, if you want to look at like your performance over time in life, really, you know, if you just zoom out and like look at it from like a birth till death sort of thing, if you're understimulated or understressed, this is you. So you don't actually get to accomplish what you're capable of. This is the zone of optimal performance. And so what that means is there's a certain amount of stress, ideally this level of stress right over here, you know, that overwhelm, that actually brings out like the best performance. So these are high performers. And then down over here is what we call like overstressed, AKA, think about it, distressed. And the etymology of the word's really interesting. You know, there's like eustress and there's like distress. This is like too much. This is like good, you know, enough, substantial, like significant, but good for you, right? Gets you waking up in the morning, gets you doing some cool stuff. So, yeah, you know, just to be blunt, like I get overwhelmed pretty often, and I don't have the best project management systems in the world. That's one thing that I'm working on right now. But you know, usually the idea is when you have a constraint, like you have a certain amount of time in a day that you can do something, if you're smart about it, you will use that constraint for good, not for bad. Like the solution to me having all this stuff to manage isn't, you know, get more time so that I can do more. It's like find ways to do the same thing or more in the same amount of time or less, which I think is pretty positive or pretty beneficial. So I appreciate that, Nadia. Yeah, it is, you know, I like to think that it's pretty good. There are a lot of people out there making more money than I am as a one-person business. So the idea is, you know, what sort of systems can I take from them, implement into my own company, and print Benjamins. But yeah, thank you. And really, like, you know, it's just having like some simple systems that enable you to always make sure that things are on track, right? Like one of my big levers is just publish content every day. So this is a good opportunity and way for me to publish content every day while also doing things like answering questions that I know are going to come up in the future. I'm kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Get some brainstorming time in, get some strategy time in, also get to produce content. With client projects, like, oh, I got to make a project for my own business or for somebody else, right? So might as well record a video on it, also do content. So it's like You know, student has a question. Awesome. Let me record a video on that question so that I can answer their problem and then also produce content. I get to always just look for opportunities to kill two birds with one stone. And then I find that, that results in me having more creative output, creative content strategy, and then higher volume output as well. That's kind of like the tactical way of doing this. Okay, Sharia Taggy asks, hey, Nick, do you think it'd be wiser to target local businesses if you're a beginner to AI automations? Yeah, I don't. No, definitely not. So if you're a beginner, the question is, who to target. There's a big list of things that I would target first before going local businesses. I would not target local businesses first at all. I would go like digital always first. I don't know, like hybrid, high cost of living countries. And I would do all of these first before targeting local businesses. Because local businesses are way harder to scrape leads for. Usually you need to do so in some sort of geo manner where you pump things into Google Maps API. You do some sort of like address-based scraping or whatever. This is hyper limited. Usually basically like the bar is much higher. Okay. In order to scrape these local businesses, you have to invest a lot more money, right? Versus let's say like some digital businesses. And then, this would be fine if like the pay was a lot higher. But unfortunately the pay is really low. So, generally speaking, these businesses have a really high bar in order to get in, and then you get absolutely nothing in terms of pay, or you just get like a very small amount. If you're looking for some context around this, I'll link you to this video. If we just go niche, these 3 AI automation agency niches come alongside like a list of criteria that I use to pick a good niche. And one of them is that they tend to be digital. So if you're new, it would definitely not target local businesses. That's just a lot easier of a thing, of a lever for you to pull than local businesses. If you're, experienced and advanced and you do see a market opportunity with a particular type of local business, then I might consider it. Moe says, hey, Nick, how have you improved your speaking skills? Clearly it's a strength of yours, but any advice on it would be great. Thanks. I really don't have like a very straighter line path here than just talking a lot. I yap constantly 24/7. I used to do door-to-door sales for a really long time where it mattered to be perceived as articulately as possible. I did a lot of sales in the intervening years as well. Cold calls, did a lot of, obviously, cold emails to booked meetings. And then my Upwork application strategy required me to record a large number of videos every day where I had to speak and be articulate on camera as well. So I wish I had a cool do this 2 or 3 step program and you'll have really good speaking skills. But in reality, the vast majority of these speaking skills were just developed by doing it a lot. And so my brain's just like architected in that way where I could yap while seeming reasonably put together, I guess. Sorry, I couldn't be more helpful there. Okay, let's answer Mark's question. Then we'll do some brand stats, and then we'll wrap up with some strategy. He says, yo, Nick, I've seen you pull up at least 2 different Google Sheets and the Godspeed app in the past few weeks. Can you give an overview of your organization or task management process and why you set it up like that? Yeah, this is a great question. More than happy to do so. This is all based off of David Allen's Getting Things Done. It's this big project management / self-productivity framework that I believe was put out over 25 or 30 years ago now, but it's been modified to work with like task management apps and stuff like Godspeed, for instance. So let me run you through what mine looks like. Basically, the way that this works is you kind of have like a 3-step program. This is what I call task management. Let's just say task management / productivity. This was brought to me by one of my best friends. His name is Brogan. He's a teacher in the Netherlands. Essentially, the way that this works is you have what's called an inbox. Then after you have like what was this called? Compartmentalization step. Okay, anyway, an inbox, a to-do, and then a next, a waiting or future. Let's say future. I do waiting, but let's just do future. Okay, so you have basically these 3 bins in your project management platform of choice. You have an inbox, which is where everything new, every thought you've ever had in the whole wide world, anything interesting, your friends' birth dates, as they mention it, at dinner one day, or I don't know, a gift idea for your boyfriend or something like that. Like all of these random thoughts that you have. The idea is get them out of your head and get them into some sort of blank slate task management approach where you just don't have to think about them anymore. They're not taking up any mental real estate anymore. You stick them in an inbox. So once you do this, what you find is that your mind is just a lot quieter. It's a lot freer. If you have an appointment in 3.5 hours, add it to your inbox and then don't think about it anymore. If you have to pick up groceries on the way home from work, add it to your inbox, okay? It's no longer taking up any mental bandwidth. Your mental CPU now, instead of running at 50% all the time, it'll be able to run at like 20 or 10. So when you get in the habit of just having some blank slate, giant list of shit that you throw all of your ideas into, your requirements, your tasks, your projects, generally speaking, your mind just grows a little bit more peaceful and you're able to like think a little longer term. But an inbox isn't enough. What you do there is usually a few times a day in my case, maybe like once a day if you really wanted to systematize it. You have some sort of prioritization or categorization, SOP, where you will just open up this inbox and then you will simply sort the tasks into 2 folders, in my case, to do and then future. To do are tasks that are urgent, they need to get done. They're basically like non-negotiables. Okay? Future, I should add one more here. Future, because I don't use my task management app, doesn't have this folder, but it's okay. Future is for non-urgent, but important. Stuff you want to get to, basically, but stuff that you don't need to today. And then there's also one more, like this technically, I no longer have it as a folder because my project management app right now, my task management app, Godspeed, just doesn't have like a way for me to do this. So I just mark tasks as completed. But generally, you also want something called an archive, which is just where everything else goes, plus your completed tasks go, in my case. Like you can technically break this down, but I try and make this as simple as possible. So the reason why this is really cool is, let me give you an example of like the thought process here. You basically have some new thought, okay? And the second that you have a new thought, what you do is you place it in inbox. Then some indeterminate amount of time is going to pass, and then you're going to do a prioritization step. Then what you do is you place in to do. Then anytime that you have an available moment, what you do is you do the to do. Okay? If while you're working on the to do, something else comes up, some other thing that requires you to do, I don't know, you have some thought of some future idea you could do or some other task that pops up, you add additional things to inbox. And then the next time that you have your prioritization step, you add them to future, archive, to do, and then this basically just repeats over and over and over and over again. Okay. So let me give you guys a quick example of this. Right now, while I'm recording this video, I've had a couple of thoughts. The main thought is I need to get better at explaining this stuff because I think a lot of people are going to ask. So what I do is I have this thought, right? And I just say, I don't know, improve, I don't know, draft simple way to explain getting things done. Technically, it's called getting shit done, which is a slightly different formulation to audience members. This might be as simple as me literally writing down a brief, 2 or 3 sentence thing. Okay, easy peasy. Check it out. It's right over here. Now, I don't actually have a to-do folder here, unfortunately, because I'm using my inbox as my to-do, but this is sort of suboptimal, and I only really recommend this if you know what you're doing. So what you have to do is you have to create a new list, and I've forgotten how to do this. So, okay. So I'd have a to-do. So now I have a bunch of tasks in here, okay? Draft simple way to explain GSD to audience members. What I would do is I'd press M, and then I move that to do. Memorize common meat protein amounts. M, move that to do. Check out Lindy, to do. Update Redfin video description to clarify that they've increased anti-scraping protections, to do. Organize blueprint library, to do. Add perplexity, to do. Oops. Sorry about that. Add perplexity to content generation system in make.com. That's cool. That's a to-do. But maybe rebuild content generator flow in edit. I don't really have to do that now. It's not super urgent, so I move that to waiting. Customize Loom video system. I move that to waiting. Create high quality tweet and pin it. Waiting. Buy boxers from my buddy. I'm not actually buying his old boxers or something. It's just some link that he gave me. Blue Nose Restaurant. So I'm in Halifax right now. Visit Blue Nose Restaurant. That might be in to-do. And then rebuild Left Click's website. That might be to do. What am I going to do today? I was just using this as a scratch pad right before I did my work. So in that case, I can actually just exit that out. Okay, so now what I've done is basically, you see this. This is my inbox. My inbox is totally clear. There's nothing here. And not only is my mind totally clear, but so is this kind of like waiting ground, basically. And now the really cool thing about having it structured into a to-do and a waiting is you can also like very quickly just search things. So I have the ability to search completed tasks really easily. So I could search all lists and then I could say, I don't know, N8N, okay? And now I have a task here. Oh, sorry, if I want to search, how do I search completed tasks again on this? Search, I think it's right here. I got to get a little bit better at this, unfortunately. But I think it was C, right? Okay. So right now I have a bunch of these tasks that I could search. And then if I want to, I don't know, Command F in here and I type N8N, for instance. Looks like I have no matches in my completed, unfortunately. Maybe make.com, make or something like that. I have a bunch of tasks basically that pop up related specifically to make.com that I can search through. Or maybe I have some sort of gift idea or something, right? This unfortunately is not the best example because Godspeed is a little bit like higher level and it requires a bunch of keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that that I just have yet to have the time to fully memorize. But you can use this with basically any task management app that you want. A big one that I used to use was called Evernote. And Evernote was really simple to arrange things like this. But yeah, in Godspeed, I kind of don't have an archive anymore. And then I don't really use a to-do. I use a combined inbox / to-do. So hopefully that just gets some of my thoughts out there. And yeah, I've added that to-do task and explained this thing better. So maybe I'll come back around and I'll touch up this explanation at some point or drop a comment. Okay, thank you very much for everybody else that's left a comment. I really appreciate everybody's time here. I'm just going to move on to brand stats and then I'll do some strategy and wrap it up. If I go over to my brand stats, goodbye, Nadia. I'm up to 703 subs now, which is cool. So we're here, meaning I will have gained, 100 and something? 101? That's nice. Instagram grew like crazy. Let me check this out. We're up to over 20K now. Yeah, 20,361. That's pretty sweet. So that is 1,177, which makes that our fourth biggest day on record, which is cool. And then my main channel here is now up to 52,378, which means that we've grown by 315, right? Pretty cool. So big boost the last couple of days, right? Whatever the hell happened here, this has been great. So this is what I want. The slope of this line, slope being rise over run, being basically how quickly we are getting better. It's not as fast as here. So this slope, as you could tell, this is definitely higher than this for sure, I think. Maybe it's not actually. You know what? I'm pretty sure these are actually basically the exact same. That's cool. So I need to figure out why this sucked, basically. So that's something that I should do. So I'm actually going to add that. Figure out why. Let's see, actually. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So basically 7th to, I don't know, 21st or something. Figure out why 7th, 21st day of Instagram growth sucked. Maybe not figure out, but just like have some explanation I can sit on. So yeah, I'm not really sure why that's not perfect, but whatever. I imagine like over time, this is just going to be all over the place, really. As long as, again, the slope between the first and the last is like a pretty steady growth line, which it obviously is, I'm good. If we wanted to just do some quick cowboy shit, which I always love doing, then if I just extend this like this, which is here so far, which is maybe over here. And then if I take this, extend it like this. Whew, man, okay. Yeah, that didn't work. I need to zoom out way more. Okay. let's do this. If I wanted to just like kind of see how long it would take before these two meet realistically, probably be somewhere around here, right? So this is kind of 1. This is 2. All right. So basically 2 months from now at this current growth rate. Yeah, I don't know. I've been saying, 40 days, 60 days, 80 days, 30 days. I'm all over the map, but I think it's going to meet at some point. I don't know why I'm so fascinated with this, but I am. So yeah, that's pretty cool. All right. So, obviously things are going well on the brand side of things. People seem to like the new NADN webhooks video quite a bit, which is cool. I have to record a video today, ideally, just because I have a lot going on in the next couple hours. And then I have a lot going on tomorrow. So I won't necessarily be able to sit down and record a video. So I got to record another one. I'm noticing that like all of my NADN deep dive content, stuff where I like explain things, tends to perform a lot worse than my automation agency stuff now. So I mean, look at this one. AI agent, that crushed it, obviously. 59 minutes of straight AI automation advice. Like, look at the engagement ratios here. So different. Also, like the number of likes per unit time, very different. So I'm not like pissed off about it or anything. I understand that this is just part of the process, but yeah, I think the trade-off there between, my kind of more viral content and then like this NADN stuff is I think the NADN stuff is going to last me a lot longer. I think it's going to be basically evergreen. Whereas I think that the super viral stuff is just going to, or a lot of it is just jumping on these hype cycles. And I'm getting to take advantage of riding a wave like a surfer, up some big swell. But, I think that when those swells die down, it's going to be like the slow and steady content that I've been doing about, let's say, NADN or whatever, like keeps on going. So while I think that like, the cool brand viral stuff, but AI agency is going to perform like this, maybe not like this, but like this, basically. I think that like my NADN tutorials will basically just grow like this. So it's like, yeah, obviously per unit time, I'm not going to get anywhere near as much growth. But if we just zoom out and say over the course of a year or so, I'll probably end up with more views. This is what happened with my big viral video about scraping. But scrapping, how to scrape any website in NADN. This is like old reliable, basically. It hit almost 200,000 views now, and it just continues to chug. People are still watching this. Not as much as they were initially, of course, but they're still watching this. Whereas, I think a lot of my more automation agency-centered, like viral content about agents and stuff that's newer but doesn't really have proven ground to stand on, it just grows a lot quicker, and then it kind of like, trickles down over time. That's my theory anyway. But yeah, that's that. Cool. In terms of the strategy, I don't really have too much that I want to cover today, but I do have a couple of outstanding problems. So I need to figure out how to record 2 sources in OBS. Or if there's just some other way I could do this, then that'd be great. Because you guys can't really see this right now. I think if I go to screen capture and then I say, don't hide OBS from capture, you will. Okay, so you probably can now, right? The issue is I have these scenes. So right over here, I have this one scene called main. So if I click it, and I'm going to do so in a second, my face is just going to be really big, right? Just like it is now. So this is being encoded and dumped into a file. And so in the file, you now have my face. If you watch a video of this, it'll just be my face. When I click on this scene here, the screen share one, we'll go back to just like I did a moment ago, we'll go back to the screen share with my head in the talking right-hand corner. That's cool and all, but if I want to run this big Instagram Imangadzi style funnel at scale, where I'm publishing 150 pieces of content a month, I basically need to be able to record both of these things simultaneously. Like, I don't want to have to add a massive additional workload to my content production strategy. I want to be able to do all of this stuff live like I'm doing it now, where I'll change the scenes myself just using a little hotkey. So I want to be able to like continue doing that because it's just really convenient for me, and then I get to produce high volumes of content. But I also want this source file 24/7 running, so I could just take this and then give this to an editor. And then the editor can now chop it up and do all of that cool stuff with it. So basically, I guess what I'm saying is I need to come up with a way to have two sources. Now, I just tried some plugin. It's called Source Record. Source Record was, cool. It basically did exactly what I asked it to do. But the result was I ended up with tons of frame rate drop. So I was basically like, right? And like my voice is like, but, ooh, oh, over and over and over again. So obviously I can't really do that because then the source file is just going to be all blurry and crappy and coding's going to have a problem. Aside from that, I could also just run two OBS instances, which I've done in the past, and then have both of these side by side running and recording. But I've run into similar frame rate issue drops before, which is unfortunate. So that's my big issue right now. I want to be able to do this thing at scale. I do not want it to compromise or change my current process because it's very valuable, enjoyable, and also convenient for me. And I think those are the things that I'm optimizing for. If I just zoom out, I want to minimize the friction involved. So yeah, I just don't really know what I'm going to do there, to be honest. That's kind of my roadblock. So that's one thing I know for sure I need to cover, I need to fix so that I can just dump the sources directly into a Google Drive. By dumping the sources directly into a Google Drive, and my editors will very quickly be able to just go in there, touch up the content, and then be done with it. And then I need to figure out my content management system for the team, which I'm thinking will look like this. We'll have some table and ClickUp, okay? Table looks something like this. We'll have the main, so let's say the title of my content. Then we'll have a source folder. Then we'll have an edit folder. And basically, this daily update's a good example. I don't know what I'm going to call this, okay? Let's just say X, Y, and Z. That's going to be the title. So when I publish a video, I'm going to automatically add a new line item to a ClickUp table. This ClickUp table is going to come with a source folder, which is going to be a drive folder. The editors will click on that. They'll open up the source. Then they'll watch it. And then while they watch it, they'll note moments in the clip that they want to cut up into shorts. Then what they'll do is they'll create what are called subtasks in ClickUp. Okay. The subtasks are going to be the timestamp. So it'll be like 0:23 to 1:35, 1:46 to 1:59. 2:32 to 2:58 or something, okay? They'll leave this source field blank because there's no real point because the source field's up here. But these will all be subtasks that are part of the main one. And then what they'll do is when they're done editing, they'll actually just upload it to this edited folder. There'll also be a status field here. The way the status field will work is the main task, when they start, it'll be moved to in progress. And then these, just as they work their way down, they'll slowly but surely move this to completed. Maybe this one here is still in progress, whatever. But basically when all of these hit completed, the status of the main record will move to completed. And in that way, we should have a pretty self-organizing system where we can just go down the edited column, or the manager basically can go down the edited column, and then just publish all of those, put them up on YouTube or whatever. So this is what I'm thinking of doing. I need to make this out in ClickUp, and I need to come up with some sort of way where I can trigger the flow so that when I publish a video on YouTube, it does this. And then it also knows where to get the source file and stuff. Maybe my trigger shouldn't be publish it to YouTube. Maybe I should just, have Ophonic dump to some sort of Google Drive or something. That might actually be a reasonable way of doing it. Now that I think about it, like these daily updates, I push them through Ophonic. Ophonic can just take the file, publish it to YouTube, and upload it to a Google Drive. So that way I could add new line items here. And then for my normal content, which is a little bit longer, requires editing, what I could do is I could upload it to YouTube and upload it to Google Drive simultaneously. That's actually pretty reasonable. That's probably what I'll do. Yeah. One of those problems that just takes you speaking about it for a few seconds. And then you're good to go. So daily update content will go into Ophonic. Then I will generate or add to Drive. Then I'll watch. This is an ugly arrow, man. I'll watch folder. I'll create ClickUp row. And then my main, I'll just upload both to Ophonic, then G Drive simultaneously, and that'll be watched. And then that will create a ClickUp row as well. So what do I really need to do here? I just need to change my Ophonic preset. And then what I'm thinking of doing is any additional content that comes in, like podcasts and stuff like that. Because I'm going to be doing a lot of those, or like one-off meeting recordings or whatever. I'm just going to add those to the drive manually, and then maybe I'll have some sort of naming convention. So I'll upload it to Drive, and then basically all of this will have some sort of naming convention. And this naming convention will update a type field in ClickUp, where here I have another column called type. This might be like daily update. The next thing over here might be like main. Another one here might be podcast. Cool. That sounds pretty reasonable for me. So I need to make that database basically. So I'm going to say create content management system for Mangadzi. And I need to come up with a name for Iman Gadzi strategy. That's not the Iman Gadzi strategy. Because as much as I love the guy, I don't want to be like, hey, just copy this guy over and over and over again. Because I didn't. It's, very common strategy. A lot of people are doing it. He just happens to be one of the ones that's pulled it off really successfully. Maybe I'll call it like the fans page strategy or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I do need to figure out this stuff. So that's a big priority. If anybody here knows how to do that, then let me know. As I mentioned, I don't really want to, just going to change that setting. I don't really want to have to like change my main workflow that much. Ideally, I would just have an additional file generated with like the source page, the source file, the source view of the big camera talking head thing in 4K. I don't know if it's like a limitation of my computer, or maybe I'm just not setting my bit rates right, but if I have any like videography pros or whatever, I'd very much appreciate the feedback. Anyway, thank you very much for getting to this point in the video as per usual. If you guys have any questions that I didn't answer today, drop them down below. More than happy to go through them, give you guys a bunch of value for all the value you guys have been giving me. If you could do me a big solid, like, subscribe to all that fun YouTube stuff. Check out Maker School, Make Money with Make, of course. And then, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you all tomorrow. Rock on.